Hey, so let's talk about the cloud. You ever look at the services from AWS, Azure, and Google and feel like you're trying to learn three different languages at the same time? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're going to build a simple Rosetta Stone to help translate the most important services from the biggest players out there. Let's get right into it. EC2, S3, Compute Engine, Blob Storage. I mean, come on, it is a total alphabet soup of acronyms and weird brand names. And honestly, it's one of the biggest things that makes jumping between different clouds feel so intimidating. But here's the secret. Underneath all those names, they're all talking about the exact same fundamental ideas. So we're going to slice right through all that noise and focus on four core building blocks. We're talking compute, storage, databases, and networking. And by the time we're done here, you're going to have this universal blueprint that lets you understand not just AWS and Azure, but Google Cloud and really any other cloud platform. First up, let's talk about the absolute heart of cloud computing. This is the engine room, the very core of it all, the virtual server, or as you'll often hear it called, virtual compute. So what's really going on here? Well, you've got cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and Google with these massive data centers, right? They're filled with incredibly powerful physical servers. What they do is use this cool technology to basically slice up one of those huge physical servers into lots of smaller, totally separate virtual ones. And you just rent one of those slices. You get all the power of a server without ever having to buy or even touch a physical box. And right away, here is our first translation. Over on AWS, they call it EC2, which stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. Azure, well, they keep it super simple and just call it a virtual machine. And Google Cloud calls theirs Compute Engine. See? Three totally different names for what is, at its heart, the exact same thing, your personal server in the cloud. And this quote just nails the why. The key takeaway is that the maintenance headache is just gone. You're not worrying about swapping out a failed hard drive or patching the hardware. That's all the cloud provider's job now. You get to focus on what actually matters, your code and your application. Okay, so you have your virtual server up and running. Awesome. But where are you going to put all your files? You know, things like user images, videos, backups, all that stuff. That brings us to our second big concept, object storage. The easiest way to think about object storage is like a nearly infinite hard drive, just hanging out in the sky. It's built for what the source material calls humongous data. And the best parts are that it's incredibly cheap, it's super durable, meaning your data is ridiculously safe, and it can grow to pretty much any size you could ever need. All right, time for translation number 2. On AWS, this service is the famous S3, which is short for Simple Storage Service. On Azure, it's called Blob Storage, and blob is just a geeky term for a file, a binary large object. And Google Cloud, they just call it Cloud Storage. Again, same exact idea, just different logos on the box. This quote really hits on why it's so popular. Every single application out there generates data, and that data pile just keeps growing and growing. You've got to have a place to put it all that won't cost a fortune and that you know you'll never outgrow. That mix of low cost and huge scale is exactly why services like S3 are so fundamental. Now, storing files is one thing, but a lot of apps need a more organized way to handle their data. We're talking about things like user profiles, product catalogs, order histories. For that, you need a proper database. See, in the old days, you'd rent a virtual machine, and then you'd have to install, configure, patch, and manage a database like MySQL yourself. A managed database changes the game. You just pick the kind of database you want, and the cloud provider handles all the painful stuff. The patching, the backups, making sure it doesn't go down. It saves you so much time and so many headaches. Okay, let's get our third translation on the board. For these managed relational databases, AWS gives you RDS, the Relational Database Service. Azure has its Azure SQL database, and Google offers Cloud SQL. And all three of them can run the popular stuff like MySQL and PostgreSQL for you, completely managed. And just like with the virtual servers, the reason is staring us right in the face. It is all about offloading that operational work. Trust me, managing databases is complicated, and you do not want to get it wrong.
Letting the cloud provider handle it means your team can build new features instead of, doing emergency database maintenance at 3 in the morning. All right, so now we've got our compute, our file storage, and a database for our structured data. But they're all just kind of sitting out there in the public cloud. How do we securely connect them to each other, but keep them safe from the rest of the world? This brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, virtual networking. The number one concept here is isolation, right? Imagine both Nike and Puma rent servers that, by chance, are running on the same physical machine in a data center. You need a rock-solid guarantee that Puma can't accidentally see Nike's network traffic. A virtual network gives you that. It's like building your own private digital fortress right inside the cloud. And for our last translation, AWS calls this a VPC, or Virtual Private Cloud. Azure is a little more direct and calls it a virtual network, or VNet for short. And Google also uses the term VPC. All three of them let you create your own private network in the sky, control all the addressing, and set up firewall rules to protect everything inside. And really, this quote says it all. It's the same core idea of carving out your own private network space in the cloud. They just use slightly different labels for it. Okay, so we've covered the 4 big building blocks and we've translated their names across the major clouds. Let's put it all together now in our universal blueprint. And there it is, our Cloud Rosetta Stone. Whether you call it EC2, a virtual machine, or compute engine, it's all just compute. Whether it's S3, Blob Storage, or Cloud Storage, that's your storage. RDS, Azure SQL, Cloud SQL, that's your database. And a VPC or VNet, that's your networking. This right here is the foundation for almost every application running in the cloud. So here is the most important thing I want you to take away from all this. Don't get hung up on the brand names. Seriously, if you understand the what and the why behind these 4 ideas, compute, storage, databases, and networking, you can look at any cloud provider's list of services and you'll immediately know what's going on. The names will change, but the core concepts never do. When you really start to see past all the marketing and the brand names, the cloud becomes what it actually is, a powerful set of universal building blocks. So now that you've got the decoder ring, the only question left is, what are you going to build with them?